And this is how the Australian government will censor you as an individual. And this is what happened during COVID. So let me just shift the screen around here. I've got a couple of slides I want to share with you. So during COVID, there was a politician here. He was in the Liberal Party and he left the Liberal Party and became an independent. His name is Craig Kelly. And he was very outspoken against all of the COVID rules that were there. So the next couple of slides that I'm going to share with you are the Freedom of Information Act. And he went to Facebook and Twitter and to the government departments and said, "Oi, you switched me off. I want to know why and who did this." So here's a couple of emails about from the Australian government. So this one here on the screen goes to support@twitter.com. And it says, "Hello, we appreciate you letting us know about this." So this is the response that Twitter had sent back to the person in the Australian government that had reported him. So this is the tweet that someone in a government department reported. This is the contents of it. It says, so Craig Kelly said this, "Looking desperate and running out of ideas." So that's what he said. "Mistakes are made, mistake after mistake, constant scaremongering, harming people's mental health with endless lockdowns, raw abuse of police power, ignoring Israel's experience, destroying lives and New South Wales economy," because he's here in New South Wales. "Shame, Gladys, shame." Gladys Berejiklian was the premier, and "time to resign." So they're the words that he said. And someone in the Australian government, Department of Health and Aged Care, reported that to Twitter for mis or disinformation. So they're the words that he said, and that was what was reported, and his account was cancelled because of it. Let me show you some more. So here's another slide. It says, this is once again, this is an email to them. So this has happened on the 29th of April, 2021. "Hi," and it says the person's name's redacted. "Finally, we reported Craig Kelly's account," and Craig Kelly, brackets, "the MP who has been banned from Facebook and Insta for spreading COVID misinformation. We noticed that all of the COVID misinformation is now going to his Twitter account, but we were advised that the account didn't breach the Twitter guidelines, email attached. Is there a way we can escalate this?" So they reported this guy, Craig Kelly, to Twitter and said to them, he's doing COVID misinformation, but here's your guidelines. He's in breach of your guidelines. So folks, this is how the Australian government censors you. And this comes from the Australian Government Department of Health. And it comes from Assistant Director, Social Media, National Incident Room. So they've got an incident room where they look at social media for mis and disinformation about whatever topics they're looking about, a terrorist attack, COVID, whatever's going on there. And they're saying that he's in breach of your terms, please escalate it. Now, if you were at Twitter, what would you do? You'd look at the terms and conditions, you'd look at his thing and say, well, who am I to say he's in breach of the terms and conditions? He's not doing anything wrong. But they're saying that he's done something wrong here, and they're saying that you need to cancel his account. So one more here for you. This one's from Facebook. So essentially what it says, it's a bit hard to read. It says, so Craig Kelly's got a Facebook group, and it's called United Collective Public Group. So United Collective, that's what it is, and it's a public Facebook group. And the highlighter part here, I'll read it for you because it's a bit hard to see. It says, "We believe this group infringes on Facebook's policies and has promoted events and calls to action advocating fighting against COVID-19 vaccines and also spreads misinformation to push this message. An example of the said misinformation can be found here," and there's a link that shows you there. And so what they're doing is they're looking for mis and disinformation inside of these groups. So the government, someone in the Australian government is inside your Facebook group.
Yep.
They're reading your tweets, they're reading your stuff, and they're censoring you. They're censoring free speech. And to your point, Ed, you've always said it, man, that the only answer to free speech is more free speech, whether or not you like it or you don't like it. Whether or not I'm a misogynist pig, I'm a racist, I'm inciting some sort of uprising against the government, so long as I'm not inciting violence, free speech should be allowed. But there's government people being paid by Australian taxpayers, sitting there to look at your social media account, making a decision about whether that's true or it's not. But here's the irony in it all, folks. Here's the irony. Craig Kelly was completely cancelled because of it. His character was completely and totally assassinated because he would come out on TV and say what he believed in. And the news anchors on TV, on Channel 9, on Channel 7, on Channel 10, on the ABC, all said he was a spreader of mis and disinformation. They labeled him an anti-vaxxer. They labeled him with all sorts of name calling. And they're doing that to completely destroy his character. So in the process of destroying his character, they destroy his reputation, and he lost his job as a member of parliament. He lost his seat. But the irony is, everything that he said was true.
Yep.
Where's the apologies?
No,
Where are
they? Hold your breath. They're coming.
I'm turning blue, man.
Yeah. Listen, if I were him, I would take a snapshot of all those emails, and I would center my next campaign around those ads.
Well, that's the freedom of information request, right? They're the FOIA requests, right there.
Yeah, and I would point out that he was a victim of a tyrannical government. That if they can do that to me, they can do that to you, and they are doing that to you.
But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. So let me be on the side of the government for a second. We don't. If I was in government, I don't want somebody out there saying something that's not true. But if it's not true, but it's not harmful, it's probably all right, whatever, man. He can say whatever he wants. But the thing is, these people in government were saying what Craig Kelly was promoting was not true. But what they didn't do is they didn't have the proof to say if that was true or it was false. There was no way to tell if that was true or false. They just said, this is not true. It's breaching your guidelines. Get rid of it. But they don't know if it's true or false. Craig Kelly took a position and said, this is true. I'm stating my position here for everybody. If you don't like it, fair enough. You don't have to like it. I'm just stating my position. But then someone in government said, his position is wrong. And they said, because he's wrong, he needs to be cancelled. Cancel him. Get rid of him. Shut him up. Silence him. But the person doing the cancelling has no more proof as to whether or not the veracity of Craig Kelly's claims are true or not. So what I'm saying is the people in government are the ones that are the arbiters of truth. So what's next? Are they going to ban the books on my shelf here behind me? Are they going to make me burn those books and say, you can no longer read those books because there's no truth in those books? Am I allowed to read the Bible? Can I read the Quran? Am I allowed to read those things? Even though I'm not a Muslim or a Christian, am I allowed to read those things? Is there truth in those books? Or can I read, a book by Rebecca Koffler or by David Hackworth? Am I allowed to read one of those books on my shelf there? Is there truth in that, or is there something in there that a government censor doesn't agree with or likes? And there's no requirement for them to verify any of it. These people, man, it just shows me that the government that we have and the rule of law that we have is not what you think. It's not fake. Because if they don't like it, they'll shut you up. And they'll shut you up, they'll destroy your character, they'll destroy your reputation, they'll take your job away, they'll take your money away, your ability to learn, your ability to actually earn, your ability to run a business, your ability to do anything will be completely cancelled if the government doesn't like you. We don't live in a democracy. It's worse than an autocracy. It's worse than a dictatorship. It's worse than the CCP. At least in the CCP, I've got all the technology to scan myself, to scan my face, to go places. If I do the right thing, I'll be rewarded. Here in our society, I'm not rewarded by anything. There's no incentive to do anything. In some ways, I look at the CCP and say, is that maybe a better system?
Here we go.
Maybe. Because it makes me question everything. Because this one person who's censoring Craig Kelly ruins the whole thing. They ruin everything. But who is that person? Why isn't that person under parliamentary privilege outed? Why isn't that person outed and all over social media and saying, this is the person right here. This person, look at their face. That's the person who censored everybody in government. Here's the group of people. The Ukrainians did it, man. The Ukrainians, when they found out who was targeting using cruise missiles, they found out who was targeting. There's a bunch of young people, man. They're probably in their early 20s. No one older than about 25. They're like video gamers. They're the ones looking at the maps and getting the GPS positions, plugging in the positions into the missiles that are striking and killing Ukrainians. The people in Australian government are no fucking different to the Russians doing that. They're looking at your social media. They're looking at what you're saying on YouTube. They're looking at all those things. And those people are the ones that are censoring you. Why are they any different to the Chinese Communist Party? They're exactly the fucking same. If anything, they're worse. They're worse than the Chinese Communist Party. And the reason I say that they're worse is because, at least in the Chinese system, my social credit score allows me to redeem myself, to get back up. If I be a good person, be a good citizen, then I'll have the ability to buy a train ticket or to buy some food or to do whatever it is that I want to do. Here in Australian society, if you get cancelled like Craig Kelly did, if you get cancelled like David Van did by Lydia Thorpe yesterday by one person, there's no chance of redemption. You'll never redeem yourself. And those people are much worse than the Chinese Communist Party. We don't have communists here in Australia. We have technocrats. And the technocrats are the ones that shut normal people down. It's horrible. It's a horrible system. And no one's really saying anything in the media about it because it's all the media is doing.
Yeah.
Mainstream media are doing it.
Listen, I want to know, when that grand censor retires, how do I apply for the job?
Who is it? It's like the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan or some shit. They're sitting there with a white fucking thing on their head saying, man, I just makes me like wild with rage, these people.
I would love to have that job. I'd love to shut people up, but what a great job that would be.
You know what? You're never gonna shut me up.
It's not about truth or disinformation. It's about agenda. And it's about compliance. We have an agenda here at the government that we are promoting, and anybody who takes any kind of steps to, restrict our powers and our influence, you're the enemy. That is fascism. That's what fascism is. Mm-hmm. When they shout you down, when people go to a university to make a speech about not mutilating your children, and the students show up to shout you down, they don't allow you to speak. That's fascism. When you want to get a point of view out and they censor you, that's fascism. If I were that gentleman, I'd take those 3 clips and I would wear them as a badge of honor, because he has been vindicated. Everything he said is true. Everything the government said is not true. But more importantly, he is a victim of fascism, and that's textbook. That's not. There's no. Well, maybe he was. There's no opinion about it. He was censored, and that's what fascists do. So if you are an actual freedom-loving person, if you actually believe in free speech, then you have to be willing to put up with